Short answer, no. It is a different virus altogether. Long answer, it is basically the same. In addition to all of the problems with calling it so dangerous that I pointed out last week, we now have a stunning admission from a doctor on the ground.
A lot of people come to the hospitals over-exaggerating and be sent home because don't have it. So unfortunately, when you walk in, you say, I think I have, it goes down considered a case. It gets reported to the CDC. So accurate numbers.
So all the numbers aren't accurate?
No,
though.
because now they have to see how many of those cases are actually positive cases.
So the CDC is just telling us everybody who...
Yeah, everybody who walks in the doors complaining of it gets put in as a case until proven otherwise.
Furthermore, we now know that doctors are counting a person as being dead from the virus, even if it is not the virus that kills them.
Just one for Dr. Fauci or Dr. Burks. Can you talk about your concerns about deaths being misreported by coronavirus because of either lack of testing or standards for how they're characterized?
So I think in this country, we've taken a very liberal approach to mortality, and I think the reporting here has been pretty straightforward over the last 5 to 6 weeks. Prior to that, when there wasn't testing in January and February, that's a very different situation and unknown. There are other countries that if you had a pre-existing condition, and let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem. Some countries are recording that as a heart issue or a kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. Right now, we're still recording it, and the great thing about having forms that come in and a form that has the ability to mark it as COVID-19 infection, the intent is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that as a COVID-19 death.
This means that the number of cases would have been drastically skewed. A group of pro-life advocates in North Carolina are suing the state for arresting their friends for protesting outside of an abortion clinic. While people are being asked to delay non-essential procedures, North Carolina is one of several states that has declared killing children essential. This, combined with the Orwellian stay-at-home order that disallows people to protest this horror, only makes things worse. In other news, Samaritan's Purse, run by Franklin Graham, is being attacked by leftists over intolerance. The charity is providing beds and medical equipment for the overworked hospitals in New York. The intolerance comes in the statement of faith, which rightly defines marriage as being between a biological male and a biological female. Naturally, attacks like this are nothing new. Christians have been dealing with sectarian attacks for years. At the dawn of Christianity, believers would rescue children that were left on the road to die. The rest of the population came to believe that the faithful were eating the children, citing, "This is my body." Christian charities fill in the gaps that governments leave open and understand what the poor and marginalized need quite well. They are only being attacked because of how much the forces of darkness hate Jesus. While President Trump was getting a task force ready to deal with the coronavirus when it was just starting to rear its ugly head, the Democrats were focused on impeaching him. Remember, they were impeaching him for wanting to investigate Quid Pro Joe, holding up aid to Ukraine to get a deal for his son. Now they want to start another impeachment hearing. These people are not interested in justice. Recall that Impeach 45 was the rallying call when President Trump first entered the White House.
And I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
Supposedly, President Trump is not doing enough to deal with the coronavirus. Despite mandating companies produce supplies, giving out free money, and creating a task force with daily briefings, the virus originated in China. There are no two ways about it. China has taken this opportunity to hoard as many masks and other pieces of personal protective equipment for themselves as they can. Even worse, 3M and Honeywell are reporting that China is forbidding the export of N95 masks and the like to other countries. This is the consequence of having a government-controlled economy, as Bernie Sanders and his followers want. The government is controlling who gets these supplies, just like socialists always do. This is why companies are returning en masse to America. After decades of oppressive regulations that force them out, a combination of cut regulations and fear over China is bringing them back. Tucker Carlson and the National Review have found something interesting about the coronavirus. They found that there is no horseshoe bat colony from which this virus supposedly originated within 900 kilometers of Wuhan, China.
First, the scientists confirm what scientists around the world have said they believe. The virus most likely came from an animal known as the intermediate horseshoe bat. Here's the striking thing. There are no known colonies of this bat within 900 kilometers of Wuhan, nor is there any evidence that they were sold in the Wuhan wet market. Then about 7 miles away was another facility. This one was called the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The Virology Institute also conducted research on intermediate horseshoe bats, the ones that were not sold at the wet market. South China University scientists concluded that the coronavirus pandemic, the one that people are dying from here, likely came from one of these two government labs in Wuhan.
Therefore, it does not seem plausible that it was just bat soup, but some very intense research which the advertisements at the time indicated. Furthermore, doctors began treating 19 patients with the symptoms of the virus when this research was taking place. The communist government then covered it up. This alone increased the number of cases 20 times over. Not only did this clear the streets of Hong Kong protesters, but it crippled economies around the world. If all of this is true, this never was an ordinary virus. It was an act of biological terrorism. If so, the Chinese Communist Party is guilty of war crimes. Bernie Sanders has officially dropped out of the race. The way I see it, so many people are seeing shortages and government mandates of every flavor that he sees we will not accept socialism for some time. Now Joe Biden is the Democratic frontrunner, and the DNC's hands are clean on letting Biden be out front. Trump will eat Biden for breakfast. Trump will win in a landslide, but we still need to get out there. The Democratic Party is floundering in many ways. People are leaving the party in droves, and if it were not for their substantial presence in the media, Hollywood, and Silicon Valley, they would have fallen by now. Introducing the remaining two major parties, the Libertarians and the Green Party. The Green Party is Democrats on steroids, but the Libertarians are Republican light. If the Democrat Party does fall, it will create a possible power vacuum. Both of these two smaller parties have leveled a lawsuit in Illinois about getting on the ballot. The short and sweet is that they must receive enough in-person ballots, but social distancing will limit this. I do not know what the results will be, but we will find out soon enough. Senator Lindsey Graham is the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and has decreed that in the next fiscal year, the World Health Organization will not be funded. Ideally, we would cut off all funding to international organizations and just deal with our own problems. WHO leadership apologized for China and downplayed the severity of the virus, even attacking President Trump because he was somehow racist in his response. It is a fact that 95% of these cases could have been prevented if China had acted earlier. Imagine how many more could have been prevented if Hu was not focused more on pleasing the communists and more focused on serving the public good. Graham has assured us that under their present leadership, they will not be getting a single penny from the U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr hopes that these, quote, draconian social distancing measures will end in the next 3 weeks. While people like Cuomo are willing to suspend church services, Barr finds this deeply troubling. Civil, especially religious liberties, are among the highest values for Americans. Barr wants to make sure that the rules put into place are necessary and removed once this is over. However, anyone who has opened up a history book knows that this is a tall order. Governments rarely give up power once they have it. Next time, the attacks on our liberty will be even worse. Mark my words. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion.